Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're getting into a really fundamental idea. It kind of sets the whole tone. Come and see.
He's a Pasico, yeah. It's this invitation, isn't it? The Dhamma isn't asking for blind faith. It's saying, come check it out for yourself.
Exactly. And that spirit that's really guiding our whole deep dive today.
Absolutely. And we've got some really great material to work with. 3 Dhamma talks from Phra Ajaan Funn Ācāro. They were translated by Ṭhānissaro Bhikkhu. And importantly, they're out there under Creative Commons. You can find loads more on dhammatalks.org, audio, ebooks, all sorts. You can even get free paperbacks. It's amazing.
That's fantastic, making it so accessible. So the specific talks we're looking at, one's from June 72 at Wat Tam Kam.
That's right. June 15th, 1972. And then 2 more from Wat Pa Udam Sumphorn, July 11th and 12th, 1976.
Okay. So for Ajahn Funn Ācāro himself, let's talk about him a bit. Born 1899. And his early life, it wasn't initially pointing towards monasticism, was it?
No, not at all. He was actually heading for government work.
Yeah.
But then he saw, a lot of corruption.
Right.
And that experience, it really shook him. Left him quite disillusioned, actually.
Yeah.
And that kind of steered him onto the path he eventually took.
Towards becoming a monk.
Exactly. And he became known for being incredibly strict in his practice. He studied under Phra Ajaan Funn Ācāro, a huge figure, really the founder of the wilderness tradition.
The forged tradition, yeah.
Right. And Ajahn Funn, he spent years wandering, practicing in forests, really remote places, just immersed in it.
And then he settled down eventually at Wat Pa Udam Sumphorn.
Yes, that became his base later on. And his reputation just grew and grew. People really respected him, not just for his deep understanding, but also this mix of qualities. He was very strict, demanding in practice.
But kind, too.
But also deeply kind, yeah. Quite a combination. He even ended up teaching the king. They had this system with recorded Dhamma talks, questions and answers sent back and forth.
Wow, like tapes.
Yeah, apparently by a dedicated railway courier. Can you imagine?
That's incredible. And he passed away in 1977.
At 77, yeah. Left behind a really powerful legacy. Now, a lot of his really deep teaching was one-on-one with close students. But these talks, the ones we have, they were for larger groups. And you still really get a sense of his character, that strength, that firmness, but also the compassion. They offer some really valuable insights.
Okay, so that sets up our mission for today then. We want to pull out the key ideas from these talks, help you, the listener, understand suffering, maybe let go of this idea of a fixed self.
Yeah, and the importance of virtue, concentration, discernment.
And how all that leads towards, well, inner peace, finding that lasting calm.
Exactly. So let's dive in. Ajahn Funn, he really starts with the basics, but in a profound way. The 4 Noble Truths.
And dukkha, suffering, right. He puts a lot of focus there.
He really does. His take is very direct. Birth, aging, illness, death. These aren't just abstract concepts. They are, as he puts it, heeks of suffering. Things everyone goes through. Doesn't matter who you are.
Yeah, and he points out how we try to run away from it, doesn't he? Chasing status, money, houses. Like these things can somehow shield us.
Right. But they're all temporary, aren't they? They don't fix the root issue. It's like putting a bandage on a deep wound without cleaning it first.
Good analogy.
And he digs deeper into the body itself.
Okay.
Says it's a constant source of potential problems. He lists all these things: eyes, ears, nose, tongue, heart, hands, feet, hair, nails, teeth, skin, bones.
The whole package.
The whole thing. He even says the body is made of germs. It's quite a stark image.
It really emphasizes our vulnerability, and then these heavenly messengers he talks about. The aches and pains.
And like when you sit too long, that pain is a signal, a warning about this inherent suffering.
But we usually just ignore it, right? Shift position, maybe grumble a bit, but we don't really hear the message.
Exactly. We tune it out. His point is, suffering isn't just out there. It's right here. In this body, he gives the dimensions: a cubit wide, a fathom long, a span thick.
So the Dhamma, the teachings, and the Vinaya, the discipline, they're tools for dealing with this suffering right here and now.
Precisely. They're the map and compass for navigating this reality.
Okay, so if suffering is so fundamental, what's the way through it? What does he suggest?
The goal, he says, is to get out of the world, meaning the world of suffering. And the path involves, 3 key things: generosity, virtue, and meditation.
Or sometimes he phrases it as virtue, concentration, and discernment.
Yes, those 3. They're the practical steps towards liberation.
Okay, let's shift to this idea of self, or maybe the illusion of self. Ajahn Finn seems quite critical of our usual sense of me and mine.
Very critical. And it's not just about owning stuff. He applies it right to our own experience.
Yeah.
These eyes are mine. This mind is mine, he says, but none of it's true.
That's quite a statement. It challenges everything.
It really does.
Yeah.
Because how can you truly own something you can't control? Think about it, illness, aging, death.
Mm-hmm.
They happen whether we like it or not.
We have no ultimate say.
Exactly. And this leads him to talking about Mara.
Right. Now, Mara often gets pictured as some kind of demon figure, doesn't it? An external tempter.
Yeah, that's a common image. But Ajahn Funn offers a much more internal perspective.
How so?
He basically says Mara isn't out there. Mara is the aggregates. Form, feeling, perception, mental formations, consciousness, the very building blocks of our experience.
So to be a person, to cling to that identity,
is to be a Mara of the aggregates, in his words. It's a radical reframing.
Wow. Okay. So how does that understanding connect to like daily practice?
He connects it straight to the chanting we do every day, the Savagga Gatha, reflecting on impermanence.
Rupa Anika Vedanika.
Exactly. Form is impermanent, feeling is impermanent, perception, formations, consciousness, all impermanent.
And he links that impermanence, Anika, directly to not self anatta.
Precisely. The logic is simple but profound. If something is constantly changing, if it's inconstant, it can't be a permanent independent self. Rupa anatta vedanta anattame.
Seeing that helps loosen the grip.
It helps loosen that self-identity, that clinging, not just to things, but even to people we love. It's not about not caring, but about seeing the nature of things clearly, which reduces our suffering when change inevitably happens.
Okay, so we see suffering, we see through the illusion of self. What's the active path forward? You mentioned virtue, concentration, discernment. Let's break those down. Virtue first.
Virtue, Sila. It's about ethical conduct. Observing the precepts, not killing, stealing, lying, and so on. He says living this way creates a foundation of harmlessness, no animosity, no danger.
Which naturally leads to less suffering for ourselves and others.
Right. It creates a peaceful space. Then there's concentration, samadhi.
The focused mind in meditation.
Yes, but more than just focus. It's a mind that's stable, unwavering, not blown around by every little thing, every worldly distraction.
And he says nibbana, unbinding, isn't far away then.
That's the encouraging part. He says it can be found right here in that concentrated, stable mind. It's not some mythical place.
That makes it feel much more achievable. And the third one, discernment. Panya.
Discernment. This is about really understanding the affairs of fabrication, Acaro. Recognizing how we create our own karma, our own problems, through delusion, through not seeing clearly.
It sounds like a lot of responsibility falls on us.
It absolutely does. He stresses bringing the teachings inward opanayiko, really looking at our own desires, our attachments. We keep feeding the maras, he says, the aggregates, the defilements, death itself, things we ultimately can't control.
So the path involves consciously choosing a different way.
Yeah, separating things out, seeing what leads to suffering, what leads to peace, and making a clear choice to end the cycle of birth and suffering.
And meditation is key for that, for maintaining that awareness.
Crucial. Constant mindfulness is needed to break that cycle, samsara, birth, aging, illness, death, over and over. He reminds us, we come into this world alone, we leave alone.
So clinging to the cycle doesn't make much sense. We need to find the exit.
Exactly. Find the way out from within.
Okay, let's talk about merit. That's a concept we hear a lot. How does Ajahn Funn connect making merit to finding happiness?
He makes it very clear. The whole point of practice is to know what merit, what goodness is, and then to cultivate it. True happiness, he says, isn't about having more stuff.
It's internal.
It's internal. It's having a peaceful heart, a Buddha heart, he calls it. And it connects outwards. A good mind leads to good speech, good actions. It brings order to your life, to your community even.
So how do we cultivate that meritorious mind?
Well, he gives practical ways. Donations, generosity that helps overcome stinginess, keeping the precepts that helps reduce anger and ill will, and meditation.
That tackles delusion.
Right, through developing mindfulness and clarity.
And what does it feel like to have that kind of mind?
He describes it as peaceful, happy, at ease, cool-like, free from the heat of agitation, undisturbed, bright, clear. And cultivating this now, he says, leads to a good destination after this life.
And the opposite is also true, presumably. An unwholesome mind.
Leads to suffering, disturbance, negative results. It's a clear contrast.
And again, it comes back to personal responsibility.
Absolutely. He's very direct. No one else can do this for you. You have to make your own heart well through your own effort, your own practice. But he does add that collective goodness, shared merit, can actually reduce negativity in a whole community.
That's a hopeful thought. Now, the Rains retreat comes up. Why is that period singled out?
It's traditionally a time for monks to stay in one place,
Hmm.
but he extends the principle. It's an opportunity for intensified practice for everyone. More generosity, stricter observance of precepts, deeper meditation.
Like a spiritual boot camp period.
Kind of, yeah. He encourages everyone, lay people included, to really step up their efforts during this time. But it's not just about quantity, putting in more hours.
It's about the quality.
Exactly. He really stresses moving beyond just knowing the teachings intellectually. It's about experiencing them, developing real skill, real intelligence in the practice, like being able to see the body's impermanence directly, not just think about it.
And he uses himself and Ajahn Mun as examples.
Yes, their own diligent practice, cutting back sleep, food, constant walking and sitting. It's meant as inspiration, showing what dedicated effort looks like. He contrasts this with maybe some older, more rote practices that weren't as effective.
So virtue is the foundation.
Virtue leads to happiness, to normalcy in body and mind, he reiterates. And during the rains, the focus is really on entering inside,
Looking inward.
deeply, investigating body and mind, seeing their true nature, trying to overcome the delusion that binds us.
And he asks that really direct question.
Yeah, what about this body makes you deluded? It's a prompt for investigation.
Yeah.
Look at its impermanence, its suffering, its lack of a solid self.
And in meditation, focus on awareness.
Buddho, focus on awareness itself. Buddho, not on worries, plans, all the usual mental traffic.
Yeah.
A quiet mind, he says, is empty, that it's also radiant, free from grasping, free from suffering.
And there's an urgency to it.
Definitely. He really emphasizes dealing with unwholesome states now, correcting the mind now, because at the time of death, it's too late. He uses that analogy.
The carpenter planing wood. Or polishing a floor. It takes continuous effort, refinement, diligence to purify the heart. It doesn't happen overnight.
Okay, finally, he talks about the results of practice using these Pali terms. Kusala, akusala, abhyakata dhamma. Can you unpack those?
Sure. Kusala Dhamma are basically skillful actions, things done with good intentions, kindness, wisdom. These lead to good results, happiness, ease, now and later.
Makes sense. And kusala dhamma.
Unskillful actions, bad karma, actions driven by greed, hatred, delusion. These naturally lead to suffering, problems, negative outcomes.
Pretty straightforward cause and effect, but abhyakata dhamma sounds different.
It is. It refers to a state beyond both skillful and unskillful actions. It describes the state of someone who has completely abandoned all defilements, craving, passion, greed, aversion, delusion, even the tendency towards becoming and birth itself.
So someone who has reached nibbana. Exactly. They've entered unbinding. They're free from the whole cycle of rebirth and suffering. It's a state that's neither skillful nor unskillful in the conventional sense, because the causes for future results have been entirely uprooted.
And he connects this to the Buddha's awakening.
Briefly, yes. He mentioned the Arya Dhamma, the noble qualities realized by the Buddha, which include perfected virtue, concentration, discernment, and finally, release, vimutti, that complete freedom.
Right. So, wrapping this all up, what are the big takeaways from Ajahn Funn you'd want people to really hold on to?
Well, first and foremost, that invitation. Come and see. Personal investigation is key. Then really grappling with suffering and impermanence, seeing how they relate to this illusion of a fixed self we cling to.
And the path how?
Is through that consistent cultivation. Virtue, concentration, discernment. Diligent practice, especially during focus times perhaps, but always ongoing. The goal being that inner peace, that freedom he talks about, which is found right here within us.
It really brings it back home, doesn't it? Back to our own direct experience. So maybe a final thought for you, listening right now. What are you grasping onto? Is it an idea about yourself, something external, maybe a resistance to difficulty?
Yeah, consider Ajahn Funn's invitation. Look deeply inside. The source of suffering is there, but so is the potential for liberation. And remember, those resources at dhammatalks.org are there if you want to explore further on your own journey.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.